Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce, there are some issues with ECOWAS. The spirit behind ECOWAS is to allow free movement of goods, services, and persons
Yes.
within the economic zone. But we have had complaints from Dangote, from other manufacturers who sell their goods across the West African coast. They have issues with along the Togolese and coast borders. We shouldn't be, because of the existence of the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. We should make it absolutely free for everybody to move goods and services across. Also, if you I traveled to Togo a few months back. I spent an hour at the airport, which is another anomaly. We are not really functioning as a perfect free trade area. We have migrated on paper to a customs union, but we are not really. I'm comparing to European Union now. All these have been our messages too. So they've only taken in and decided to agree to implement some of them. But some of the key areas that we're also championing is for them to reduce their expenses. You know, the government chairman cannot be moving with 4 or 5 vehicles in his convoy, and then former governors are still drawing huge salaries.
Pensions.
As pensions. Then you have office of first ladies. I apologize if you feel offended. We don't have any female government yet, have we?
Not yet.
Otherwise, maybe the husband would have championed to also have the office of the first lady. Then that is even on the, those are top of the table matters. They are below the table matters. We know there is also maybe first mistress, or I don't want to use the word concubine. If you are the favorable girlfriend to a governor, you will see how police people follow you about security. Official vehicles will be attached to you. We all know this. So government needs to reduce the expenses to save money. It's not just about raising income, you also have to save. And also to send the right message down to the people. If government dismisses itself fiscally, if government shows leadership, it will be easy for people to listen to the messages government preaches. And, you know, we are gradually pushing our young women into prostitution, whether we like it or not, and pushing our young boys into crime, whether we admit it or not. It's not responsible enough for a political office holder with access to our resources to keep his own family abroad, which is the trend now. You meet a leader who will be boasting to you, all Nigeria in Canada with my wife. They will be telling you boastfully. So they kept them in saner societies, and then the children of the poor who cannot afford to send these children anywhere is hold up there. So it's a dangerous phase.
Is there still hope at all? Because now they said renewed hope. So, and then you hear President Tinubu say, let the poor, let me use this word, let the poor Nigerians breathe. So is there light at the end of this tunnel for Nigerians? Dr. Sola.
That's why I spoke about leadership.
Okay, so it starts from the leadership.
The leadership has to convince Nigerians now. There is a lacuna, between the led and the leader right now. The trust was lost.
We'll begin today's conversation taking our quote from Kofi Annan, who is a Ghanaian diplomat, served as the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations from 1997 to 2006. He once said, "Good, healthy, democratic societies are built on 3 pillars. There's peace and stability, economic development, and respect for rule of law and human rights. And where all 3 are present, you stand a very good chance of making a go of it." Whoa, that's a good one. All right, let's take our second quote, and this one is from Alan Arthur Johnson, who is a British politician. He once said, "The government's first priority on coming to office was to secure long-term economic stability and put an end to the damaging cycle of boom and bust." All right. Our next quote is from George Gilder, American investor, author, and economist. He once said, "In embracing change, entrepreneurs ensure social and economic stability." Okay. Now we'll take our last one, and this one is from Warren Buffett, who is an American business magnate, investor, and philanthropist. He once said, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get." Absolutely spot on. Now let's see how this could relate to what we will be discussing tonight. Very warm greetings and welcome to D Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu recently signed 4 different executive orders, including the one that suspends the 2023 Finance Act, deferring the date of its commencement from May 28, 2023 to September 1st, 2023. The president also signed 3 executive orders reversing the laws hastily signed by former President Muhammadu Buhari towards the end of his administration. The other 3 orders include the Custom Excise Tariff Amendment Order 2023, as well as the imposition of 5% excise tax on telecommunication services, amongst others. Dele Alake, special advisor to the president on special duties and communication and also strategy, while briefing State House journalists, said the action is in line with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policy of creating conducive environment for businesses to thrive. Now, joining us to discuss this further, plus plenty more details that we'll be getting out from this conversation tonight, is Sola Obadimu, who is Director General of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NACCIMA. Prior to his appointment as DG NACCIMA, he was the Director General of the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce. He also served at various times as the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Director General at the Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce, Founding Executive Secretary at the Nigerian South African Chamber of Commerce, and Acting Director General with the Institute of Directors, Nigeria, amongst others, with high-profile professional and trade development-related responsibilities. Now, ladies and gentlemen, pick up a seat, get your glass of cup of water, of your freshly made juice, and let's have this conversation with Sola Obadimu, DG NACCIMA, after this time out. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now we'll go straight to our conversation for today. And our guest on the show today is Sola Obadimu, who is the DG of Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. That's NACCIMA. It's great to have you on the show today, sir.
Thank you very much, Annabelle.
All right, now let's begin this conversation, but we'll start first. Let's get up close and personal, knowing your organization, NACCIMA. Tell us about NACCIMA, the core values, your objectives, your mission statement and vision. And since 1960 that it was established, how far so far have you been able to meet these core values?
Okay. It would be nice to start with some information about chamber movement globally. Of course, the idea of chamber movement probably started from Europe. And the idea is for each city to have an association of businesses within that city. I think London Chamber of Commerce and Industry was the first one formed, if my history is correct. And it spread to some other countries and cities. Let me just put it that way.
Okay.
And as events progressed, some cultures or some countries decided on the kind of model that we see. Some people talk about the French model. What it means is that in some countries, it is compulsory for every business to belong to a chamber. You have no option. So in France, and even Francophone countries in Africa, Germany, Holland, and so on, it's compulsory that every business must belong to the local chamber where it is situated. So, and the chamber movement grew. In Nigeria, Lagos Chamber of Commerce was the first to be founded in 1888 by the colonialists, the expatriates. And I think they managed it till about independence, to the point that they also assisted in the formation of NACCIMA.
Okay.
NACCIMA was birthed to a degree by Lagos Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
Because by that 1960, some other chambers are now springing up in Nigeria, city chambers. And the idea was that let's have a national chamber. It's not peculiar to Nigeria though. So that we have this national chamber that speaks to the federal government.
Okay.
You know, the city chambers, they will speak to their city authorities, state governors, and so on. But a pan-Nigeria organization, first of all, that will be a representing voice. That's why our appellation at times is Voice of Business. So we advocate on behalf of the business community in Nigeria when there are issues to be addressed, be it taxes that affect negatively the business community, be it lack of infrastructure, be it the need to remove some impediments in the export process. And when we see that some things are going wrong, there was a time we spoke about the need for government to cut down on its expenses so that we can channel more money to development. And that always we champion the spirit of good governance, so that there will be transparency in government and so on. So as of today, we have over 70 city chambers, about 10 bilateral chambers. What I mean when I say that, I mean chambers like Nigerian British, Nigerian American, Nigerian South African, and so on.
Nigeria, China.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we also have some professional associations.
Okay.
The associations in their own right, but they decided to join NACCIMA voluntarily, like the Association of Consulting Engineers of Nigeria.
Okay.
I think the fashion design people and so on. So some associations in their own right decided to be members of NACCIMA. Then we have, there's room for corporate members. Not that we are competing per se with city chambers, because actually they should be the one with individual corporate members. But there are some pan-Nigerian organizations. That's the spirit behind it.
Okay.
For example, no city can lay claim to banks. The banks, they are everywhere. Also, there are some organizations like breweries. Even if they don't have factories in every state, people drink their products. People take their products. Nestle Foods, Unilever, you find their products everywhere. Because even if they don't have a factory, they will have a distributor, sales outlet, and so on. So those ones, they qualify to be direct members here. They may also choose to join a local chamber. In fact, we insist that also try and be a member of a local chamber. So that's the structure of NACCIMA. One is an association of all the chambers of commerce, and to advocate on behalf of the business community, and two, to function as a national chamber. The import of that is that when I represent Nigeria, for example, on Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce, where each nation is represented by the national chamber.
Okay.
So Ghana also has a national chamber, Ivory Coast has, Togo has. Then we just finished the meeting of International Chamber of Commerce in Geneva. So, and we took the opportunity to even visit Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala. Our head office is in Geneva as WTO DG. So, also each nation is represented. Chambers can also go. So there is need for, because let's take the role of FEWASI, for instance, which is Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce. There are some issues with ECOWAS. The spirit behind ECOWAS is to allow free movement of goods, services, and persons
Yes.
within the economic zone. But we have had complaints from Dangote, from other manufacturers who sell their goods across the West African coast, they have issues with along the Togolese and Ivory Coast borders. We shouldn't be, because of the existence of the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme, which should make it absolutely free for everybody to move goods and services across. Also, if you I traveled to Togo a few months back. I spent an hour at the airport, which is another anomaly. We are not really functioning as a perfect free trade area.
Okay.
We have migrated on paper to a customs union, but we are not really. I'm comparing to European Union now. When I went to Europe last, I came into France. At France border, they checked me and stamped my passport and allowed me in. All my sojourn, because from there I went to Spain, I went to Switzerland. All my sojourn within the Schengen, within the European Union, nobody checks my visa again. Nobody checks my passport again until I decided to exit. It's only at entry into the European Union and at exit. Wherever you go inside, it's your business. Nobody checks you up again. Nobody asks for anything. Just your ticket if you are flying inside. So we have not got to that stage where we have a perfect economic area. And it's not just ECOWAS. If you look at South African Economic Development Area, SADC, we have a situation where, although that came up as a result of economic imbalance, where Zimbabwe has a border with South Africa. Because the South African economy is much more stronger than that of Zimbabwe, South Africa has to institute a fence, just like US does with Mexico, with police dogs and patrol, whatever. Because people are jumping over the fence to get into South Africa, sometimes electrify it. So our economic zones within Africa has not been so perfect. And that's one of the ingredient concerns to the formation of African Continental Free Trade Agreement. That if the regional blocks are not working so well, how do we overcome our problems in forming a truly African market area?
All right, you said quite a number of things that we're going to unbundle as the conversation continues. You talked about after there's AFCTA, the agreement and all. But then if we have to talk about, I hear you say one of the objectives of NACCIMA is to look into businesses with regards to tax and then challenges that they're facing. So if you have to rate how much your activity has been able to touch on businesses, Nigerian businesses, with regards to ease of doing businesses, how far so far would you say?
We've really gone far. And we are glad, all these pronouncements. Let me take this present administration, for instance.
Okay.
We are a key member of the organized private sector and the founding member of the organized private sector. That's why I call ourselves the voice of doing business. All these pronouncements are things we have been talking about over time. Remove fuel subsidy. Why should there be a big difference between forex rates? Let's encourage exporters. Let's encourage small businesses. If it is standards or packaging, let's train them, make them compete with their counterparts. Let's grant them access to finance. If we had come a bit earlier, I just finished a meeting with CBN people who are expressing concerns about lending easily on an easier note to small businesses who don't have land and houses as collateral when drawing loans. And it even goes beyond that. On the international scene, we are trying to reposition Nigeria, one, as a favorable investment destination, then two, to push out our products as much as possible internationally. And that's why we are interested in making sure that all these initiatives, the ETLS, the African Continental, whatever, that they succeed. But we must be careful. If our products don't compete in quality and pricing, we will have more inflows coming into the country than going out. And our net forex earning status will be negative. Because we can only benefit from all these initiatives when we are able to export more. And with the fortunes facing the crude oil, when there was oil theft and so on, and government just started to increasingly tax businesses, that's a negative thing to do. We can actually earn more if we export more. And we can actually earn more when we add value before we export.
Okay.
Crude anything cannot fetch you anything. Raw agri products, crude oil, raw mineral products, they cannot fetch you anything. And another thing, by exporting raw products, you are exporting jobs. I will explain that.
Okay.
When you export raw cocoa, for instance, to Europe or wherever, and they process it and send it back to us as Milo or Bonvita, people that will work in the factories, processing factories there, the jobs that we should have given to our youths here, if the factories were here, the
Just
youths of
export
other
them.
countries will work in those factories. So by exporting raw materials, we're exporting jobs. Also the crude oil. Those that will work in refineries abroad, before shipping it back as petrol or
Fuel
diesel,
or
the
carol.
people that are working there, they are jobs that should have been kept internally. So this is a huge concern for us, that we don't need to export jobs. Let's keep our people engaged, and what I'm doing that is to add value to whatever we want to. All these have been our messages too. So they've only taken in and decided to agree to implement some of them. But some of the key areas that we're also championing is for them to reduce their expenses. You know, the local government chairman cannot be moving with 4 or 5 vehicles in his convoy, and then former governors are still drawing huge salaries.
Pensions.
As pensions. Then you have office of first ladies. I apologize if you feel offended. We don't have any female governor yet, have we?
Not yet.
Otherwise, maybe the husband will have championed to also have the office of the first husband. Then that is even on the, those are top of the table matters. They are below the table matters. We know there is also maybe first mistress, or I don't want to use the word concubine. If you are the favorable girlfriend to a governor, you will see how police people follow you about, security, official vehicles will be attached to you. We all know this. So government needs to reduce the expenses to save money. It's not just about raising income, you also have to save. And also to send the right message down to the people. If government disciplines itself fiscally, if government shows leadership, it will be easy for people to listen to the messages government preaches.
Okay. So now, taking a cue from where you just landed, I read a statement ascribed to NACCIMA which says, and quote, "Economy already bad before Tinubu's coming." So kindly paint us a picture of Nigeria's economy.
That what?
That the economy is already bad
before
Tinubu's coming.
Okay.
So kindly paint us a picture of what the economy looks like from previous administrations to now. And if it's so bad, like we all keep hearing, how can we actually jumpstart the economy then?
It was bad, and there are abundant evidences. The mere fact that your youths are eager to go to anywhere is a clear signal that something is wrong. You understand what I'm saying now? Migrate to anywhere, Ghana, Togo, they are just ready to move out. That's concern number 1. Concern number 2, before, it's jobless people that are too keen to move out. Now people started to resign from oil companies, banks, top consulting firms, sell their properties and leave. That is alarming. With their families. It shows when somebody resigns from a company like Pricewaterhouse, KPMG, these are our best brains, and they are running away. And selling off their properties. It's an alarming sign that something is basically wrong. And why? We decided not to embrace change. The system we were running was just able to benefit a few people. And the duty of the government is to make sure that majority benefit from every policy. Fuel subsidy, why did we speak against it? Only few people are benefiting from the so-called. It is not a transparent process. For example, Nigerians don't mind paying more for anything. Let's look at the telecommunication. What happened there? That was a transparent process. However, when we got to power, the process was not transparent. So the wrong people benefited from that, and that is why we have not been able to resolve that. And that's why the government, this present government, decided to throw it absolutely open, to bring some transparency to the system. We need to bring sanity back into the economy. Because really, there's a difference between helplessness and hopelessness.
Aha, okay.
Helplessness is you have a problem and you are looking for help. But maybe you still hope that you will get the help. Hopelessness is that you have given up. And what's the clear evidence? Before, when people leave school, they will look for a job. It doesn't matter whether it's secondary school or OND or that, they will look for a job. We are now entering a phase where graduates some of them don't even bother to look for jobs again.
So at what stage are we? Helpless or hopeless?
We are moving into the hopeless arena.
Oh,
that's what it means. They are not even bothering again. Maybe from school, some of them are already into some petty crimes, and they just decided that it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So let me just go into what I've been doing. And, we are gradually pushing our young women into prostitution, whether we like it or not, and pushing our young boys into crime, whether we admit it or not. It's not responsible enough for a political office holder with access to our resources to keep his own family abroad, which is the trend now. You meet a leader who will be boasting to you, all my children are in Canada with my wife. They will be telling you boastfully. So they've kept them in saner societies. And then the children of the poor, who cannot afford to send these children anywhere, is holed up here. So it's a dangerous phase. And that is why we needed to do something drastic to make sure that we reorient the system to give hope to people that are coming. What's the difference between there and here? It is a society. Their own society caters for the unborn generation. That's why our people can go there and get jobs. If they are eating everything today, like we are doing here, who will think of the next generation? So we need to start thinking of next generation more. So.
All right. So even whenever I just have this conversation, they just have people keep listing out the hydra-headed challenges that we're facing. You talk about multiple tasks. You talk about increased prices of commodities in the market. Even this fuel subsidy removal has not even done anything good at all since. And then you still talk about the price hike in electricity, which is rumored, but they say we should at least brace up for something around it. So in all of this, I'd like to ask, is there still hope at all? Because now they said renewed hope. So, and then you hear President Tinubu say, let me use this word, let the poor Nigerians breathe. So is there light at the end of this tunnel for Nigerians? Dr. Sola.
That's why I spoke about leadership.
Okay, so it starts from the leadership.
The leadership has to convince Nigerians now. There is a lacuna, between the led and the leader right now. The trust was lost. Let's just be honest with ourselves. The trust at a point got lost. And we need to rebuild that trust. And that is why it is very important for leadership at this point to show good examples. It's critical. If it does not, and the poor starts to pay more for everything, which you have mentioned, at a point, there might be an issue socio-economically. Because human being is not built to suffer endlessly, uncontrollably. No. At a point, they say when you push somebody to the wall, at a point, you
bounce back.
Bounce back. So it behoves, you see, when a new administration comes in, because we are very optimistic people, we give you the benefit of the doubt, which will last some months. After that, people want to start to see signs that a change is coming. I can give you a few examples in Africa. We can look at Rwanda. This was a totally finished country. A totally finished country. We could also look at Ghana some decades ago. It was almost finished. They were coming to Nigeria to do all sorts of menial jobs. Their teachers were coming out to do shoemakers. The girls, I mean, for people who are old enough, prostitution and so on. Rwanda was finished. It was a war-torn country. And that's a more recent development. And one man came up. You can accuse him of being autocratic, using some wrong methods, but he got results for them. People who have visited Rwanda in recent times, they give testimonies that it doesn't look like an African country. So people will give you the benefit of the doubt. And now you need to be upright. You need to show the right signs. Let's stop all these frivolous attitudes, wasteful tendencies. Let's discipline ourselves. Let the leaders discipline themselves. When they do so, people will see the signs, and then they will follow you willingly, not forcefully.
Great. All right. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation with Sola Obadimu. I'll see you after this time out. Join us again.
If you still have to provide your own electricity, sink your own borehole, provide your own security, you are manufacturing in lorry, your market is in Lagos. Every time your lorry loads, your mind is not at rest. Maybe they will kidnap the driver with the lorry, and then the ransom they will ask for is more than you make in a year. So until the man calls you from Lagos that a guy is in Lagos, so that's when your mind. So we need to remove all these uncertainties so that we could compete favorably. Port efficiency is also part of it. Port accessibility is also part of it. And people are importing through Togo, through Benin. They are not mad. Maybe if that ensures that they get their goods in time, why wouldn't they do that?
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's Television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. And in case you just joined us, you've actually missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation, as our guest on the show today is Sola Obadimu, who is the DG of NACCIMA. That's Nigeria Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. All right, before we went on that break, we've actually pointed out quite a number of things, and where you left off was where you talked about leadership. You should start from the leaders. If the leaders ask, they should practice what they preach and not leave that lacuna. Now, I recall that few days ago, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed 4 executive orders, including the one that suspend the 2023 Finance Act, deferring the date of its commencement from May 28 to September 1st, 2023. And also you have the customs excise tariff and amendment order, and as well as the imposition of 5% excise tax on telecommunication services, amongst others, reversing some of the laws that were signed into by the former president, especially during his last leg in office. So with regards to all of this, and then when the spokesperson talked about it, he said, and quote, "The action is in line with President Tinubu's policy of creating conducive environment for businesses to thrive." So in all of this, how did the news of that first? How did the news of that him signing those 4 executive orders come to you? And then how far would it actually, like they say, help businesses to thrive?
It was a very welcome development because, like I said, you can't continue to tax people endlessly. For the first time since I could recall, first quarter results this year for breweries, our leading breweries, Nigerian breweries, was negative. It hasn't happened in my living memory. You know, the fortune of breweries is, in mathematics we call it inversely proportional. When the economy declines, industries such as breweries, their fortunes, it improves, because if you cannot buy cement, you go and buy beer.
You must buy beer.
But the thing hit them, and they had to release some stuff. And it was exacerbated, pardon me for that word, by an unwise cash decision that was taken also in that first quarter that affected almost everybody. So that further contributed to it. Now, back to this executive orders that were signed was just to alleviate or ameliorate the tax burden on businesses, really, so that they can continue to exist. Government is not employing. Private sector bodies are employing. It behoves on government to support them to grow. You know, and that's why we are talking about exports. You know, if you produce extra, export means extra. You are satisfying internal demands, you want to satisfy external demands. If you want to export, you employ more. Not so, you employ more, you engage more hands. And that's why we are saying, let's think out of the box. Let's not just concentrate on taxes alone. To fund excessive lifestyles of our political leaders, because the two, they go hand in hand. If you raise more money and you waste it, there is no point. But if you raise more money, you discipline yourself and you channel more money into development. Bad roads, infrastructure, address this light situation, I don't know, make life more comfortable to people. People will feel it, they will know it. You know, but a situation where only Abuja can be proud of good roads is not too nice. It's not too nice. All of us cannot come and live inside Abuja. And it's not also representative. Any foreigner that comes into Nigeria and only to visit only Abuja will think that that is how the whole of Nigeria is. So we need to make sure that development goes round, irrespective of where you live. In developing countries, even if you stay in a village, there is nothing that is happening in cities that is not available in villages. There are roads that are, it will be smaller, it will be single lane and so on. But it will be tight and well maintained. The street lights will be there, the light is there 24 hours, water runs. So yes, you might still migrate to cities, but it's not as if because you live in a village, you lack basic amenities. So these are things we should target and achieve if we really want our youth to stay back and focus on deeper issues. Endless taxation can only give you temporary relief.
Okay, but then, sorry, I have to butt in. Yeah. Then, is tax only the issue? Because now you have businesses that have complained that they had to leave Nigeria because some of them will complain about security, some of them will complain about electricity and all.
Infrastructure now.
So how much did, aside this executive order, how about the electricity deregulation? Will it actually make any difference for businesses?
It's in the short term. In the short term, tariffs will go up. There's no doubt about that. But what I'm saying is that the proceeds, whatever government makes, if you waste it, it doesn't make any. If you channel it to address these issues, these gaps that we have identified, we need to fix roads, we need to do something about electricity, because generation is still in the hands of government anyway. It's only distribution that has been more or less privatized and commercialized. So government still has a role to play in energy provision, irrespective of the liberalization of that sector. So what we are saying is that if government does not improve infrastructure as a whole, and it goes even beyond roads and energy, there is hospitals, healthcare, you understand what I'm saying? Education, it's not about number of schools that you have. If there are many and none of them are worthless, what's the quality of whatever you produce? So all these things are begging for attention. And that's why I say that the leadership has to be disciplined enough, and so that we can save more money to channel into this. Look, you are in business to make profit, for God's sake. So if relocating to Ghana will make you make more profit, you will. Nigeria still remains a big market. You will produce in Ghana and then you'll be shipping it here to come and sell. Shikena. So there is no law that bounds you to stay put here. And we have more population than Ghana. We need to engage our people. So that's what I'm saying. We are exporting jobs by not fixing infrastructure.
Okay. All right, then let's talk about, because you'd mentioned AFCFTA. Now we know that ECOWAS region is positioning its member states ready to be well integrated into the much talked about AFCFTA. That's the Africa Free Continental Free Trade Area, and Nigeria is expected to play a vibrant role in that region as well as the continent. So now, being the largest economy in Africa, so I'm going to ask you, I keep hearing people say, "Oh, thank God, our new president is the chairman of ECOWAS." So, how much impact will that have in of the fact that he's now the new chairman of ECOWAS? How much will it have in terms of the after agreement?
Well, we've always been heavy in quote along the West African coast. And I think population-wise, we're about 50% of the population of people in ECOWAS. And we played a role politically, military-wise, during ECOMOG time. Our soldiers got deployed and so on and so forth. But we are talking economics here. And that's why I said, if almost 60 years after, when did we find ECOWAS? Maybe 50, 60 years ago, I'm not sure. If we are yet to get to have got properly integrated, despite the fact that we've been together, and I have to spend an hour at Togolese airport. And if you recall, it took President Buhari a long time before he signed, because of the fears to avoid these inflows, getting more than outflows, fears of the fact that we are lacking behind in infrastructure. Can we compete? Those were the fears, basically. But you see, you've got to raise your own bar. If you keep your bar low, you can't really improve. You have to challenge yourself. And that is what this thing will bring on. It hasn't come to effect yet, really. It hasn't taken effect yet. But we've got to reposition ourselves to take advantage of it. And we keep going back to the same factors. If we don't improve infrastructure, for instance, how can you compete in pricing? Because you can't sell below your production costs. If you still have to provide your own electricity, sink your own borehole, provide your own security, you are manufacturing in Ilorin, your market is in Lagos. Every time your lorry loads, your mind is not at rest. Maybe they will kidnap the driver with the lorry, and then the ransom they will ask for is more than you make in a year. Yeah. So until the man calls you from Lagos that, "Oga, I did Lagos," so that's when your mind. So we need to remove all these uncertainties so that we could compete favorably. And port efficiency is also part of it. Port accessibility is also part of it. People are importing through Togo, through Benin. They are not mad. Maybe if that ensures that they get their goods in time, why wouldn't they do that? So, and it shouldn't be. With our large coastline, is bigger than the coastline of Togo and Benin and whatever now. So we should have multiple ports that can take any vessel. Okay. So people from Port Harcourt wouldn't need to patronize Lagos port. But now, businesses in Port Harcourt, when they are bringing in goods, it will come to Lagos. They now use trailer to transport it back to Port Harcourt. When they're exporting, they will first load it. We use trailer to bring it to Lagos port. We shouldn't be doing that in 2023. All these things are inefficient, and it doesn't make you compete internationally in pricing. Also, when you want to export, that's why some raw products, they get bad along the way. If it's supposed to take 10 days and it's taking 1 month, these are problematic issues.
All right, so let's stay on those issues and challenges that you were already enumerating. Now, talking about those challenges confronting intra-West African trade that needs urgent attention, looking at several stumbling blocks preventing the free flow of goods and services, like you actually talked about within the region, such as you have cumbersome procedures, high cost of transportation, and then corruption. Now, these are some of the statements that were made by NACCIMA president. I read that where he made that statement a few days ago. Now, if we have to talk about applying measures for anti-dumping and contravailing transshipment of products from country A to country B, looking at the typical Nigerian factor, how do we deal?
What, come again?
If you have to talk about, because now you talk about corruption, you talk about these cumbersome that you have to go, things that you have to go through in terms of shipment of goods and services from country A to country B.
Okay.
If you have to look at the Nigerian factor, corruption, how do we deal?
Well, everything will still come down to the leadership, really. Government has a lot of strength to straighten situations, really, with enough political will. If you've been to Lagos recently, this attitude, let me just make an example, of trailers parking illegally along major roads leading to ports.
Especially that Apapa Road.
You know, a responsible government cannot tell me that they cannot deal with the situation. Individuals we don't even have the capacity to deal with it. Only government can deal with it. So some situations, they need the intervention of governments. Maybe federal, maybe state, maybe local government, maybe anything. It's not just about collecting people, a parking fee from people, and then they do whatever they like and so on. Yeah, people in principally, they travel abroad, they see things. You see, organization and orderliness is key. And we have to imbibe that. Because that is what will lead to transparency. It is when systems are opaque that people benefit from it. For example, if you are going to have a function in December, and we already planned it now, there's no way anybody can chop illegally, to use that word. You know, but if I'm going to have an event tonight and I'm just planning it now, there is room to chop. You know, because I'm desperate, I will say, I need a generator. Then somebody will come, he will knock. It's only one that is available now. All the others have been taken. And it's only charging 100 naira per hour. Maybe the normal rate is 10 naira per hour. I will say, bring it. So the person bring the generator will chop. But if it is an event holding in December, I can take quotes from 3 or 4 vendors, choose the one that I'm comfortable with, maybe go and inspect them and decide this one. And that is orderliness, that is, you know, a functional, which they have imbibed. Most Europeans go on holidays during summer, June, July, August. The one for next year, they are planned it with the holidays they will go. They're already planning now. They've already secured the hotel, booked for flight, and so on. We've got to imbibe those values.
But is this also the problem of government also? Because now you talked about this corruption, this petty corruption that you have.
And
everybody wants to chop.
We are giving room for corruption to thrive. That's what I'm saying. And most times we overlook it and we pretend it does not exist. There was a time it was when there were rumors that for some agencies, government agencies, to get the allocations from Federal Ministry of Finance, that you have to do some... in fact, some agencies, government agencies, they have somebody that they authorize, they give PR to. That person will tell them that they need to do something at Federal Ministry of Finance so that their allocation can come out fast. And the agency will give somebody the wherewithal to do that. So we have validated it. Is that not so? By doing so, we have validated it. You know, so we need to remove illegal validations. Let's call corruption the proper name, corruption. Let's encourage excellence. These are starting points. Don't let us encourage bad examples. It's a whole it's a holistic thing. So it's either you have it all or you don't have it. There's no hard pregnancy. One of my former guys used to say, it's either you are pregnant or you are not.
All right. So another is the rule of origin, which is the key, which is key to bringing more investment, and that's what the after ecosystem offers. Which it says, and quote, it must foster industrial development in Africa and must be able to prevent shipment of goods, fraudulent invoicing, and all in Africa. So how adequate are these rules of origin, judging from some countries and then Nigeria? Let's end on that note.
It's all about transparency. Transparency, traceability, and efficiency, because that's the end result. And that's why we are talking about there is a need for digital infrastructure in export procedures. Okay. Digital infrastructure. When everything is computerized, you are talking about a situation where you want to export to, maybe in the spirit of this AFCFTA, to Kenya, and a system exists whereby everything is, sometimes they call it a single window. They use that word sometimes, where the system functions perfectly, including the payment system. You debit me in Naira, automatically the payment system will debit me in Naira, credit the guy in shillings, and the person can trace the progress of his goods right from here to there, and it arrives Kenya within the scheduled period. So that digital infrastructure has to come in before this AFCFTA can work perfectly. Okay. If it does not, if each country has to deal with its own local problems, and customs will say, well, they have loaded the goods and it has exited the ports. We don't know where it has gone, and then the man cannot trace the movement. All this, where these things function well, on your computer, on your phone, you can trace your goods as it's moving. It's just like a house courier. When you send letter, they will give you waybill number. With that waybill number, you can trace the movement of your letter. So our export procedures have to be that transparent.
All right.
For this continental free trade agreement to work.
All right, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time. But before I let you go, is it too early to ask you how optimistic you are with regards to the new administration, his policies, the men that he's bringing forth? Is it too early to ask you? How optimistic are you?
I think it's too early. He hasn't even formed the cabinet yet. It's too early. The signs are good. And the fact that he has amended the finance bill means that, well, if some policies that are not so popular now, if they need to be amended, there is hope that they may be revisited.
But then I heard the DG of NACCIMA saying that it should be completely thrown out, the Finance Act, instead of amending it or suspending it.
Yeah, I understand his point, but then let's look at the practicability of that. Can government afford to do that? But they could have been in a position to afford to do that if their tastes are not so high. We are spending a huge amount of money maintaining people in offices. So that's a huge concern. So let's hope that with time, let me tell you, if fiscal discipline, the spirit of fiscal discipline is not imbibed, much of what we make, by whatever means, will be going down the drain.
Thank you so much, Sola Obadimu, DG of NACCIMA. It's been a wonderful time having this discussion with you.
Thank you very much.
All right, viewers, that's where we end this conversation for today. We have been chatting with Sola Obadimu, who is the DG of Nigeria Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NACCIMA. And it's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you again next time. My name is Annabelle Oji. God bless you and yours, and God bless Nigeria.